Ladies and gentlemen, there are seasons in life when the loudest thing you can do is be quiet. Not quiet because you are weak, not silent because you are afraid, silent because you are becoming. Silence is not absence. Silence is incubation. It is the sacred space where transformation takes place before manifestation ever shows up in public. Too many people announce what they are about to do while they are still standing in yesterday. They talk before they are trained. They explain before they are established. But destiny does not respond to noise. It responds to alignment. Stop trying to convince people and start committing to growth. Something shifts, not just around you, but within you. Understand this. Everyone needs a preview of your process. Some people can only handle your finished product. If you give them access too early, they will criticize what is still under construction. So protect your becoming. Guard your growth. Let your silence be your shield while your discipline does the talking. When you work on yourself in silence, you remove distraction. You stop feeding your energy into opinions, arguments, and applause. You begin to invest it into habits, character, skill, and spiritual depth. And what you consistently invest in is what eventually multiplies. The universe responds to consistency, not conversation. There is a hidden power in unseen preparation. Roots grow in darkness before trees ever break the surface. No one applauds the root system, but without it, nothing stands. Your late nights, your private tears, your quiet prayers, your disciplined routines, these are roots. They are anchoring you for a height you have not yet reached. Stop explaining your vision to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You don't need approval to be obedient to your purpose. When you know who you are becoming, you don't argue with spectators. You build anyway. You train anyway. You heal anyway. You evolve anyway. Silence also teaches you discernment. When you stop talking, you start listening to your intuition, your conscience, your inner wisdom. You begin to hear what you missed when your life was noisy. Direction becomes clearer. Decisions become sharper. Focus becomes stronger. And here's the truth many don't want to accept. The universe doesn't respond to desperation. It responds to discipline. It responds when your actions line up with your intentions. When your daily habits agree with your prayers, when your work ethic confirms your faith, there will come a moment, mark my words, when results will speak on your behalf. You won't need to announce your growth. People will feel it. You won't need to defend your progress. It will be undeniable. Your silence will confuse those who expected you to fail. Your consistency will humble those who doubted you. So stay silent, not forever, but long enough to grow, long enough to mature, long enough to become unrecognizable to the version of you that once needed validation. Work on yourself until your presence answers questions your mouth no longer needs to explain. And when the universe responds, and it won't come as noise, it will come as alignment. Opportunities meet in preparation. Doors opening without begging. Favor finding you without chasing. That is the reward of silent work. Silence is often misunderstood. A world that rewards noise, speed, and constant self-promotion, silence is quickly labeled as weakness. People assume that if you are not speaking, you must have nothing to say. If you are not posting, you must not be progressing. If you are not explaining yourself, you must be losing. Silence is not surrender. Silence is strategy. Silence is a season of preparation, and preparation has never been weakness. There are moments in life when silence is not an absence of action, but the presence of intention. It is the deliberate choice to pause outward expression so that inward construction can take place. Silence is where the work happens before the world sees the results. It is where you stop reacting to everything around you and start responding to what is being built within you. This kind of silence is powerful because it is purposeful. Every meaningful transformation begins quietly. Before a child speaks, they listen. Before they walk, they stumble in private. Before a seed becomes a tree, it spends time buried in darkness where no one applauds its growth. That darkness is not punishment. It is protection. In the same way silence protects you while you are forming, it shields your focus from unnecessary opinions, your confidence from premature criticism, and your energy from being drained by those who do not understand your journey. Weakness seeks attention. Preparation seeks solitude. When someone is weak, they often talk excessively to compensate for what they lack. They explain, defend, argue, and announce because they need validation to survive. But when you are preparing, you don't need applause. You need alignment. You need discipline. You need space to grow without interference. Silence creates that space. There is a reason wisdom often develops quietly. Silence forces you to confront yourself. Without the distraction of noise, you hear your own thoughts more clearly. You begin to notice patterns in your behavior, gaps in your character, areas that need strengthening. This self-awareness is uncomfortable, but it is necessary. Growth does not happen where everything feels good. It happens where truth is faced honestly. Silence brings you face to face with that truth. In silence, excuses lose their power. There is no audience to perform for, no one to blame, no external noise to hide behind. What remains is responsibility. Responsibility for your habits. Responsibility for your choices. Responsibility for the life you are building. This is why silence feels heavy to those who avoid accountability. For those who embrace it, silence becomes refining. It strips away illusion and leaves behind substance. Preparation also requires patience. Patience thrives in silence. When you stop announcing timelines, you stop pressuring yourself to perform before you are ready. You allow growth to unfold at its natural pace, not rushed, not forced, not compromised. Silence teaches you that timing matters just as much as effort. Being early can be just as damaging as being late. Preparation assures that when the moment comes, you are not just present, but ready. Silence also builds strength where noise cannot. Strength is not developed in moments of recognition. It is developed in moments of repetition. The unseen workouts, the quiet study, the private discipline, the internal battles no one knows you are fighting. These moments do not make headlines, but they make foundations. And foundations determine how much weight you can carry when success arrives. Many people collapse not because success came too late, because it came too soon. They had visibility without stability, opportunity without identity, influence without discipline. Silence prevents this collapse by strengthening you before you are exposed. It ensures that when people finally hear your voice, it carries authority, not insecurity. When they see your results, they see consistency, not luck. Silence is also a test of faith. Can you believe in what you are becoming without constant reassurance? Can you keep going without external validation? Can you trust the process when there is no immediate reward? These questions are answered in silence. Those who endure this season emerge with unshakable confidence, not because everyone believes in them, but because they believe in the work they've done. It is important to understand that silence does not mean isolation forever. It means isolation for formation. There is a time to speak, a time to lead, time to share, and a time to be seen. But those moments are powerful only when they are preceded by seasons of quiet preparation. Noise without depth fades quickly. Silence with substance lasts. Silence also teaches discernment. You learn when to speak and when to stay quiet. You learn which battles deserve your energy and which ones are distractions. You stop reacting emotionally and start responding intentionally. This maturity cannot be learned in chaos. It is cultivated in stillness. Silence sharpens your judgment and strengthens your restraint. People misunderstand your silence. Let them. They are interpreting your journey through their limitations. You do not owe everyone an explanation for your growth. Not everyone deserves access to your process. Some people can only respect the outcome, not the effort. And that is okay. Silence keeps you from shrinking your vision to fit someone else's comfort. Eventually, the season of silence ends. Preparation gives way to manifestation. Work gives way to reward. And when that moment comes, your results will speak with a clarity words never could. No explanation will be necessary. No defense will be required. The strength you built in silence will be evident in how you stand, how you move, and how you lead. So do not rush out of your quiet season. Do not confuse stillness with stagnation. You are not behind. You are becoming. Silence is not weakness. It is wisdom at work. It is the discipline to grow without applause, the courage to prepare without recognition, the faith to believe that what is happening in private will eventually transform your public life. Stay silent. Stay committed. Stay in preparation. Because when the time comes to speak, your life will say more than your mouth ever could. Growth is fragile before it is formidable. In its earliest stages, progress needs protection more than it needs publicity. The world celebrates visibility, but it rarely understands vulnerability. Premature exposure does not strengthen growth, it threatens it. Just as a newborn is wrapped before it is shown, just as a seed is buried before it rises, real growth requires shelter before it requires recognition. There is a dangerous belief that if something is good, it should be shared immediately. Not everything that is forming is ready to be seen. Growth begins tender, uncertain, and easily influenced. When exposed too early, becomes subject to opinions, comparisons, criticism, and expectations that it is not yet strong enough to carry. Protection is not fear, it is wisdom. Before you are fully developed, outside voices can distort your direction. Advice comes mixed with agendas. Feedback arrives without context. Criticism strikes before confidence is built. What was once a clear inner vision becomes clouded by the need to explain, defend, or prove. Premature exposure shifts your focus from becoming to performing, and performance at the wrong time compromises authenticity. Growth thrives in environments of safety. Safety does not mean comfort. It means freedom to fail without judgment. It means space to experiment, to learn, to adjust, and to mature without being labeled. When everything you do is being watched, evaluated, or discussed, you stop taking the risks necessary for real development. Protection allows growth to be honest. Many people abandon their potential not because they lacked ability, but because they were exposed too soon. They shared dreams with the wrong audience. They announced plans before discipline was established. They invited opinions before clarity was formed. The weight of external pressure crushed what internal patience could have nurtured. There is a time when silence is more productive than explanation. Everyone deserves access to your process. Some people only understand results, not journeys. When you expose growth prematurely, you give people permission to speak into something they were never meant to shape. Their doubt becomes noise. Their misunderstanding becomes distraction. Protection preserves focus. Consider how nature works. The most critical phases of growth happen unseen. Roots grow underground. Muscles strengthen through repeated strain long before definition appears. Diamonds are formed under pressure, hidden from light. Nature never rushes exposure because it understands that strength must be established before visibility can be sustained. Protection also guards your identity. Early growth is vulnerable to imitation and distortion. When you expose it too soon, you begin to shape yourself according to reactions rather than purpose. You adjust your path to please observers instead of fulfilling your calling. Growth then becomes performance, and performance eventually leads to exhaustion. There is power in developing without spectators. When no one is watching, you build integrity. You do the work because it matters, not because it is noticed. This creates internal motivation, which is far more sustainable than external approval. Protected growth is rooted in commitment, not applause. Premature exposure also invites comparison. When your growth is still forming, comparison becomes toxic. You measure your beginning against someone else's middle. You judge your process against someone else's highlight. This distorts perspective and breeds discouragement. Protection keeps you focused on progress, not competition. It is important to understand that privacy is not secrecy. Protection does not mean hiding forever. It means waiting until strength is sufficient. There will come a time when exposure is necessary, when sharing becomes purposeful, when visibility aligns with readiness. But that time must be earned. Rushed growth also requires protection from self-sabotage. When you expose your progress too early, you may feel pressured to maintain an image rather than pursue improvement. You may avoid necessary changes because they disrupt how others perceive you. Protection allows you to evolve freely without being trapped by expectations. The discipline to protect your growth is a sign of maturity. It means you understand that becoming matters more than being seen. It means you value depth over display, substance over spotlight. This discipline strengthens patience and builds resilience. When growth is protected, it develops roots. Roots give stability. They allow you to withstand storms, criticism, and success itself. Without roots, exposure becomes dangerous. With roots, exposure becomes powerful. Protection ensures that when growth is finally revealed, it is not fragile, it is firm. Eventually, protection gives way to purpose. What was once hidden emerges with clarity and confidence. The growth that was guarded now stands strong enough to be shared without being shaken. At that point, exposure no longer threatens development, it amplifies it. So resist the urge to announce everything. Resist the pressure to prove progress prematurely. Let growth mature in private. Let discipline do its quiet work. Let time strengthen what effort has started. Protection is not delaying destiny, it is preparing it. In a world overflowing with declarations, promises, and public intentions, discipline has become the quiet force that separates those who talk from those who transform. Announcements may capture attention for a moment. Discipline builds results that command respect over a lifetime. Words are easy. Commitment is rare, and it is commitment expressed through disciplined action that ultimately speaks the loudest. Announcements create excitement, but excitement fades. Discipline creates consistency. Consistency changes everything. Anyone can declare a goal, post a plan, or proclaim a new beginning. Discipline is what shows up when motivation disappears. It is what remains when the applause stops, when progress is slow, and when no one is watching. That is why discipline carries a weight that announcements never can. There is a hidden danger in announcing intentions too early. Public declarations often provide a false sense of accomplishment. The brain confuses being heard with having done the work. You receive validation before transformation, and that validation can weaken the urgency to act. Discipline, however, offers no shortcuts. It demands effort before reward, action before recognition. Discipline does not need witnesses. It thrives in obscurity. It is built in early mornings, late nights, repeated failures, and quiet corrections. No one applauds discipline while it is forming, but everyone benefits from it once it is visible. Announcements seek attention first. Discipline earns attention later. True discipline is not loud or dramatic. It is subtle and relentless. It looks like showing up on ordinary days with the same commitment you show up on important ones. It looks like choosing progress over comfort, structure over chaos, and long-term vision over short-term pleasure. These choices are rarely announced, but they accumulate into undeniable strength. Announcements often rely on external energy, likes, praise, encouragement. Discipline relies on internal alignment. It does not wait to feel ready. It does not negotiate with excuses. It does not adjust standards based on convenience. Discipline operates on principle, not emotion. And principles outlast moods. When discipline is present, explanations become unnecessary. You don't need to tell people how serious you are. Your consistency shows it. You don't need to defend your focus. Your results justify it. Over time, discipline eliminates the need for conversation because it produces evidence. Evidence speaks fluently in every language. Discipline also protects you from distraction. When you are deeply disciplined, you are less concerned with how things appear and more concerned with how they are built. You stop chasing recognition and start pursuing refinement. This focus sharpens your decision-making and simplifies your priorities. Announcements scatter energy. Discipline concentrates it. Many people confuse confidence with noise, but real confidence is calm. It doesn't rush to explain itself. It doesn't seek constant reassurance. It trusts the process because it is committed to the practice. Discipline builds this kind of confidence. It is quiet but unshakable. There is also humility in discipline. Announcements often carry ego, the need to be seen, to be acknowledged, to be affirmed. Discipline carries submission, the willingness to do the work regardless of recognition. This humility keeps you teachable, adaptable, and grounded. It allows growth to continue long after others have stalled. Discipline creates momentum. Each small, consistent action reinforces identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, someone who honors commitments, someone who does not quit easily. This identity is powerful because it reshapes behavior. Announcements promise change. Discipline becomes change. Over time, discipline compounds. What starts as effort becomes habit. What begins as struggle becomes strength. What once required willpower becomes automatic. This compounding effect is invisible at first, which is why many abandon discipline prematurely. But those who persist discover that discipline eventually reduces resistance and increases capacity. When success arrives, discipline is what sustains it. Announcements may open doors, but discipline keeps them open. Without discipline, opportunity becomes overwhelming. With discipline, opportunity becomes manageable. This is why so many people rise quickly and fall just as fast. They announced before they were anchored. Discipline also shapes character. It teaches patience, restraint, and responsibility. It reveals what you value through what you repeatedly choose. Character cannot be announced. It is demonstrated. And discipline is its most consistent demonstration. In time, disciplined people no longer need to speak about their goals. Their lives become the message. Their presence carries authority because it is backed by action. Their silence is respected because it is supported by substance. Discipline gives weight to everything they do. So let discipline speak. Let your actions answer questions your words no longer need to explain. Resist the urge to announce every intention. Save your energy for execution. Build quietly, work consistently, grow patiently. In a world that constantly demands explanations, justifications, and visibility, consistency remains the quiet force that produces undeniable results. People often feel pressured to explain where they are going, why they are doing what they are doing, and how long it will take. But progress has never been impressed by explanations. Progress responds to repetition. Results are not persuaded by intention, they are attracted by consistency. Explanation seeks understanding. Consistency creates evidence. You can explain a plan 100 different ways, but if there is no steady action behind it, nothing changes. On the other hand, consistent effort does not need to be explained at all. It shows itself in growth, improvement, and outcome. Over time, consistency becomes a language that everyone understands. Many people explain because they feel insecure about their progress. They talk to fill the gap between where they are and where they want to be. But talking does not shorten the distance. Only consistent steps do. Every day you show up, even when motivation is low, you reduce the need to explain later. The more consistent you become, the less you feel compelled to defend your journey. Consistency is powerful because it works even when conditions are not perfect. It does not wait for clarity, confidence, or applause. It moves forward in uncertainty. It understands that mastery is built through repetition, not revelation. Small actions done daily reshape ability more effectively than rare bursts of effort fueled by excitement. Explanations often come from a desire to be understood by others. Consistency comes from a commitment to be aligned with yourself. When you are consistent, you stop trying to convince people of your seriousness. You simply demonstrate it. This demonstration is far more persuasive than any argument. The truth is that life responds to patterns. Opportunities, trust, and success are drawn to reliability. People invest in those who show up consistently. Growth occurs where effort is steady. Results follow rhythm, not rhetoric. Consistency establishes a pattern that outcomes naturally follow. One of the greatest advantages of consistency is that it removes emotion from the equation. You no longer ask whether you feel like doing the work. You do it because it is who you are. This identity shift is critical. When consistency becomes part of your identity, progress becomes inevitable. Explanations, contrasts often change with mood and circumstance. Consistency also builds resilience. When challenges arise, consistent people adjust rather than abandon. They do not disappear when things get hard. They do not start over every time motivation dips. They stay, and staying is what eventually produces breakthroughs. Results rarely come from intensity alone, they come from endurance. Over time, consistency compounds. Each small action builds upon the last. The progress may be invisible in the beginning, which is why many people give up too soon. They explain why it's taken time. They justify pauses. They narrate struggles. But those who remain consistent allow time to work in their favor. Eventually, what was once invisible becomes undeniable. Consistency also earns trust. People trust what is predictable. They rely on what is steady. They respect what is dependable. You do not need to explain your intentions when your behavior has proven them repeatedly. Trust is not granted to those who speak well. It is granted to those who show up. Another truth is that explanations can become distractions. The energy spent clarifying, defending, reassuring could be invested in doing the work. Consistency simplifies life by reducing unnecessary dialogue. You stop engaging in conversations that do not contribute to progress. You let your routine speak for you. When results finally arrive, explanations feel irrelevant. No one asks how committed you were when they see the outcome. No one questions your belief when they witness the evidence. Results silence doubt, and those results were not attracted by speeches, but by steady, persistent effort. Consistency also teaches patience. It trains you to trust the process even when rewards are delayed. This patience is essential because meaningful results often require time. Explanations seek immediate validation. Consistency accepts delayed gratification. And delayed gratification builds lasting success. As consistency strengthens, confidence deepens. Not the loud confidence that needs affirmation, but the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you did the work. This confidence does not explain itself. It stands calmly grounded in experience. Eventually, consistency reshapes your life. Habits become outcomes, becomes excellence. What once required discipline becomes natural. And at that point, explanations are no longer part of your vocabulary. Your life has become your proof, so stop explaining your intentions. Stop justifying your pace. Stop narrating your struggle. Choose consistency instead. Show up, do the work, repeat it tomorrow and the day after that. True strength is rarely born in public. What the world applauds is almost always the result of labor it never saw. Behind every confident stride, every decisive voice, every resilient spirit, there is a long history of private effort. Private work builds public strength because strength is not something you perform, it is something you develop when no one is watching. Public moments are brief. Private moments are constant. Applause is occasional, but preparation is daily. Problem is that many people want the visibility of strength without the vulnerability of private work. They want recognition without repetition, honor without habit, respect without refinement. But strength does not respond to desire. It responds to discipline practiced in obscurity. Private work is where identity is formed. When no one is present to affirm you, you discover why you do what you do. Motivation becomes internal instead of borrowed. In those quiet moments, you are forced to confront your true priorities. You either show up because it matters to you, or you don't show up at all. That choice, repeated daily, shapes who you become. Strength built in private is different from strength borrowed from public approval. Public approval is unstable. It rises and falls with opinion, trends, perception. Private strength is rooted in effort. It remains steady even when recognition disappears. This is why people who skip private work often crumble under pressure. They have no internal reserve to support external demand. Every skill worth mastering requires unseen repetition. Athletes train when stadiums are empty. Leaders study when microphones are off. Artists practice when galleries are closed. These unseen hours refine ability and deepen competence. Public strength is simply the visible expression of invisible preparation. Private work also develops resilience. When you struggle alone, you learn how to recover without applause. You learn how to self-correct, self-motivate, and self-discipline. These are the muscles that hold you up when public challenges arise. Without them, pressure exposes weakness instead of revealing strength. There is also honesty in private work. In public, it is easy to perform. In private, performance fades and truth emerges. You see your limits clearly. You recognize where effort is lacking and where improvement is required. This honesty accelerates growth. You are no longer distracted by image. You are focused on substance. Private work builds consistency, and consistency builds trust, both self-trust and public trust. When you keep promises to yourself in private, you develop confidence in your ability to follow through. This confidence shows publicly as calm authority. People sense when someone is grounded in self-discipline rather than seeking validation. Many underestimate the power of small, private actions, reading when no one is watching, training when no one is cheering, reflecting when no one is listening. These moments seem insignificant, but they accumulate. Over time, they create a depth that cannot be faked. Public strength is not a sudden transformation. It is a slow reveal. Private work also protects you from ego. When growth happens quietly, you remain aware of how much effort it required. This awareness keeps you humble even when success arrives. Humility strengthens leadership, sharpens learning, and sustains progress. Ego seeks shortcuts. Private work respects process. Another truth is that private work prepares you for public responsibility. Visibility multiplies pressure. Influence increases expectation. Without private preparation, public roles become overwhelming. But when strength is built privately, public responsibility feels manageable. You are not learning under spotlight. You are applying what you have already mastered. Private work creates depth of character. Character is not tested in comfortable moments. It is revealed under strain. The discipline practiced in private becomes instinctive in public. You respond with patience, integrity, and clarity because those traits have been rehearsed in solitude. When people witness your public strength, they often call it confidence or talent. What they rarely see is the fear you overcame, the habits you changed, the discipline you maintained when quitting would have been easier. Private work holds those stories. It remembers the cost even when others only see the reward. Eventually, private work earns public credibility. People may not know your routine, but they feel your reliability. They may not understand your journey, but they trust your presence. Credibility is not announced, it is sensed, and it is built one private decision at a time. Private work also teaches patience. It trains you to value progress over praise. You learn to appreciate improvement even when no one acknowledges it. This patience allows you to grow at the pace required for excellence, not at the speed demanded by attention. Public strength without private work is fragile. Looks impressive until it is tested, but public strength built on private discipline is resilient. It holds under criticism, pressure, and change. It does not panic when challenged because it knows what it is made of, so do not despise the unseen season. Do not rush the quiet work. Do not underestimate the power of effort that goes unnoticed. Every private decision is shaping your future public self. Every disciplined moment is laying a brick in the foundation of your strength. Private work builds public strength, and when the world finally sees what you have become, it will not realize that the most important work was done long before the spotlight ever found you. Silence is not empty, it is precise. In a world saturated with noise, constant opinions, and endless demands for attention, silence becomes a powerful tool for sharpening focus and cultivating inner clarity. It is not an escape from responsibility, but a return to intention. When the noise fades, what remains is direction. Most confusion is not caused by a lack of intelligence or ability. It is caused by excess input. Too many voices competing for attention blur judgment and weaken resolve. Silence removes this interference. It clears the mental clutter that accumulates when you are constantly reacting instead of reflecting. In silence, the mind stops racing and begins to organize. Focus requires elimination. You cannot concentrate on what matters while entertaining everything that calls for attention. Silence creates boundaries. It says no to distractions so that purpose can say yes. When external noise is reduced, internal priorities become visible. You begin to recognize what deserves your energy and what has been draining it. Inner clarity emerges when you stop performing for the world and start listening to yourself. Silence removes the pressure to explain, impress, or justify. Without an audience, honesty becomes easier. You can acknowledge doubts without shame, strengths without arrogance, and weaknesses without denial. This honesty is the foundation of clarity. In silence, you hear the subtle signals in chaos. Intuition speaks quietly. Insight arrives gently. Direction often comes as a whisper, not a shout. When life is loud, these whispers are drowned out. Silence turns up your sensitivity to them. You begin to trust your inner guidance because you can finally hear it. Silence also slows you down, and slowing down sharpens perception. When you rush, overlook details. When you pause, you notice patterns. You see connections that were invisible before. Clarity is not about knowing more. It is about seeing more clearly. Silence creates the space for that vision. Focus strengthened by silence is different from forced concentration. It is not tense or exhausting. It is calm and steady. When your mind is not constantly pulled in different directions, focus becomes natural. You are present with what you are doing instead of divided between multiple concerns. This presence increases effectiveness and reduces stress. Silence teaches restraint. You learn that not every thought needs to be spoken and not every reaction needs to be expressed. This restraint refines judgment. You become more intentional with words and actions because you have learned the value of pause. Inner clarity grows when impulsiveness is replaced with consideration. Another gift of silence is emotional regulation. Noise amplifies emotion. Opinions provoke reactions. Constant stimulation heightens anxiety. Silence soothes the nervous system. It allows emotions to settle so they can be understood rather than acted upon. When emotions are clear, decisions improve. Silence also separates your true voice from borrowed ones. Many people carry beliefs, fears, and desires that did not originate within them. They were absorbed from culture, family, or comparison. Silence exposes this. When external influence quiets down, you can distinguish what you genuinely want from what you were told to want. This distinction is liberating. Inner clarity leads to confidence, not the loud kind that seeks validation, but the quiet kind that knows its direction. When you are clear, you are not easily swayed. You listen without being pulled off course. You consider advice without losing autonomy. Silence strengthens this inner anchor. Silence is also a discipline. It requires resisting the urge to fill space with noise. It requires patience with stillness. Many avoid silence because it reveals unresolved thoughts and unhealed emotions. But facing these in quiet moments is what brings clarity. Prolongs confusion. Silence invites resolution. As focus sharpens, productivity changes. You do less, but what you do matters more. You stop scattering effort across too many pursuits and concentrate on what aligns with your values. This alignment creates momentum. Progress feels purposeful instead of frantic. Silence also deepens self-awareness. You begin to notice how you think, how you react, and why certain situations affect you. This awareness empowers choice. Instead of being driven by habit or impulse, you respond with intention. Inner clarity transforms reaction into response. Over time, silence becomes a source of strength. You are no longer dependent on constant stimulation or affirmation. You can sit with your thoughts without discomfort. This ability is rare, and it is powerful. It means you are grounded in yourself. In a noisy world, silence becomes a competitive advantage. While others are distracted, you are discerning. While others react, you reflect. While others speak without clarity, you act with purpose. This difference compounds over time. Silence does not remove challenges, but it changes how you meet them. With focus sharpened and clarity strengthened, problems become manageable. Decisions become deliberate, direction becomes steady. You don't need approval to pursue purpose. That truth sounds simple, yet it challenges one of the deepest habits most people carry, the habit of seeking permission to become who they were meant to be from an early age. Many are conditioned to wait for validation before taking action. Approval becomes a green light, and without it, movement feels risky. Purpose has never waited for consensus. It has always moved forward through conviction. Purpose is personal before it is public. It is planted within you long before others can recognize it. If you wait for everyone to understand your calling, you will wait forever. People interpret your vision through the limits of their own experience. What makes sense to you may threaten them, confuse them, or challenge what they believe is possible. Their lack of approval is not a verdict on your direction. It is often evidence that you are ahead of their perspective. Seeking approval can quietly derail destiny. When approval becomes a requirement, compromise follows. You start adjusting your goals to be more acceptable, your pace to be more comfortable, your voice to be less disruptive. Purpose becomes diluted to avoid criticism. Over time, you may still be busy, but you are no longer fulfilled. Activity replaces alignment. Progress loses meaning. The need for approval often comes from fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of standing alone. But purpose demands courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is movement in spite of it. You do not overcome fear by waiting for permission. You overcome it by acting in alignment with what you know to be true. History is filled with people who were misunderstood before they were celebrated. Their ideas were questioned, their motives doubted, their paths criticized. Approval came later, after results impact or change made denial impossible. If they had waited for acceptance, progress would have stalled. Purpose often begins in isolation, not affirmation. When you stop seeking approval, you gain clarity. Decisions become simpler because they are guided by values rather than opinions. You stop asking, will they like this? And start asking, is this right? That shift is powerful. It aligns action with integrity and creates inner peace, even when external support is absent. Seeking also weakens resilience. When motivation depends on encouragement, discouragement becomes paralyzing. But when your drive comes from purpose, setbacks do not stop you, they refine you. You continue because the work matters, not because it is applauded. This resilience is essential for any meaningful pursuit. There is also freedom in releasing the need for approval. You stop performing and start becoming. You speak more honestly, act more boldly, and live more authentically. This authenticity attracts the right people over time. Those who resonate with your purpose rather than tolerate. Approval that arrives later is more meaningful because it is aligned, not forced. Purpose does not require universal agreement. It requires commitment. Even one person fully devoted to a cause can create momentum. Approval may make the journey easier, but it is not a prerequisite. Many times, support shows up after persistence proves sincerity. It is important to distinguish between wisdom and approval. Listening to constructive guidance is not the same as waiting for permission. Wisdom refines purpose. Approval controls it. Learn from counsel. Do not surrender direction. You can be teachable without being dependent. When you pursue purpose without approval, you also model courage for others. Your example gives silent permission to those who are afraid to begin. You may not realize it, but someone is watching how you move without validation, and it is changing what they believe is possible. The inner conflict many experience is not between ability and opportunity, but between purpose and approval. One demands growth, the other demands conformity. You cannot satisfy both fully. Choosing purpose may cost you understanding. It will reward you with alignment. Over time, approval becomes irrelevant. Results speak. Impact testifies. Fulfillment confirms. What once felt lonely becomes empowering. You realize that you were never meant to be validated by everyone, only faithful to what you were called to do. Pursuing purpose without approval strengthens self-trust. Each step taken without reassurance builds confidence. You learn that you can rely on your judgment, your resilience, and your commitment. This self-trust is foundational. Without it, progress is fragile. With it, progress is inevitable. So release the need for permission. Stop explaining your vision to those who are committed to misunderstanding it. Stop shrinking your ambition to fit someone else's comfort. You do not need approval to pursue purpose. You need courage, discipline, and consistency. Move forward anyway. Purpose recognizes action, not applause. And when alignment meets persistence, fulfillment follows, whether anyone approved or not. Results will eventually speak for you, even in a world that values constant explanation and loud self-promotion. There is a quiet confidence in knowing that what you are building will one day make introductions unnecessary. Words can persuade for a moment. Results convince for a lifetime. They do not argue, they do not defend, and they do not need to be explained. They simply stand. Many people feel pressured to constantly explain themselves, why they chose a certain path, why progress seems slow, why they are different from everyone else. This pressure often comes from insecurity or from living in an environment that rewards visibility more than substance. But explanation is not proof. Effort is. And effort, when sustained, becomes results. Results are born in patience. They do not arrive on the timeline of public expectation, on the schedule of consistent work. During this waiting period, silence can feel uncomfortable. Doubt creeps in. Others may question your choices. Some may assume failure simply because they cannot yet see evidence of success. This is the moment when many abandon their path. Not because they were wrong, because they grew tired of not being validated. But results do not respond to pressure, they respond to process. Every disciplined action, every small improvement, every moment of persistence adds weight to what you are building. The progress may be invisible to others. It is being recorded by time, and time, when combined with consistency, is impartial. It rewards effort, not opinion. One of the greatest strengths you can develop is the ability to work without immediate recognition. When you no longer require praise to continue, you gain endurance. This endurance separates those who start from those who finish. Results come to those who stay long enough for the work to mature. When results arrive, they shift the conversation. People who once questioned your direction begin to ask how you did it. Those who doubted your abilities start to respect your discipline. No explanation is required because the evidence is visible. Results carry authority. They end debates and silence skepticism. Results also protect your peace. Instead of constantly defending your choices, you allow outcomes to speak. This removes unnecessary conflict and preserves energy. You stop engaging in arguments that lead nowhere and focus on actions that lead forward. Over time, this focus accelerates progress. It is important to understand that results are not always loud. Sometimes they show up as inner strength, clarity, stability, peace. These outcomes may not impress everyone, but they transform you, and often inner results precede outer success. Person you become through discipline is the foundation for what you eventually achieve. There is also integrity in letting results speak. Integrity means aligning words with actions. When actions are consistent, words become optional. You do not need to exaggerate or promise. Your work tells the truth. This integrity builds trust, which opens doors that explanation never could. Results take time because depth takes time. Anything built quickly can collapse quickly. When you allow growth to be gradual, you build something that lasts. The waiting season strengthens character and sharpens focus. It teaches humility and patience, qualities that sustain success. Those who rush to speak often do so because they are unsure if their results will arrive. But those who trust the process remain calm. They understand that effort compounds. They know that today's discipline becomes tomorrow's evidence. This trust creates stability even when outcomes are delayed. When results finally become visible, they often exceed what words could have conveyed. They carry detail, dimension, and depth that explanations cannot capture. They tell a story of perseverance, learning, and resilience. That story resonates more deeply than any announcement. Letting results speak also changes how you view others. You become less impressed by promises and more attentive to patterns. You learn to value consistency over charisma. This discernment protects you from being distracted by noise and keeps you aligned with substance. In the end, results bring closure. They answer questions that words never could. They affirm choices made in solitude. They justify patience practiced in silence. And they reward discipline that persisted without applause. Alignment is the quiet agreement between who you are, what you believe, and how you live. When these elements move in the same direction, resistance fades and momentum begins. This is why alignment invites the universe's response. Life does not respond powerfully to wishful thinking or scattered effort. It responds to coherence. When your inner world and outer actions match, you send a clear signal, and clarity attracts opportunity. Many people move through life misaligned. Their desires conflict with their habits. Their values clash with their choices. Their goals are ambitious, but their daily actions are hesitant. This internal contradiction creates friction. Energy leaks through inconsistency, and progress feels heavy. It's not that the universe is withholding, it's that the signal is mixed. You are aligned, decisions become clear because they are filtered through purpose. You don't debate every option, you recognize what fits. You stop chasing what looks good and start committing to what feels right. This clarity reduces hesitation and increases follow-through, which is the language results understand. Alignment also strengthens intention. Intentions are not powerful because they are spoken. They are powerful because they are embodied. When intention is matched with behavior, it gains weight. The universe responds to this weight. It responds to consistency between thought and action. When you say you want growth and you live like you want growth, movement begins. Often, people ask why effort feels unrewarded. The answer is not always effort. It is direction. Pushing hard in the wrong direction exhausts you. Alignment ensures that effort is efficient. When your actions align with your purpose, even small steps generate momentum. You are no longer fighting yourself. Alignment requires honesty. You must be willing to admit what you truly want and what you are actually doing. This honesty can be uncomfortable. It is essential. The universe responds to truth, not performance. When you stop pretending and start aligning, pathways open that were previously blocked by confusion. There is also peace in alignment. When your life reflects your values, you experience less inner conflict. This peace sharpens focus and increases resilience. You are no longer pulled in multiple directions by competing priorities. The energy once spent on inner tension becomes available for creation. Alignment does not mean perfection. It means direction. You may stumble, adjust, recalibrate, but your movement remains intentional. Each correction strengthens clarity. The universe responds not to flawless execution, to sincere commitment to alignment. When alignment is present, opportunities feel timely rather than forced. Connections appear relevant rather than random. Solutions emerge naturally rather than through strain. This is not coincidence, it is resonance. You are tuned to what you are pursuing. What you are pursuing can now find you. Alignment also builds trust, self-trust, and external trust. You trust yourself because your actions reflect your intentions. Others trust you because your behavior is consistent. Trust creates flow. Flow accelerates progress. This is how alignment amplifies impact. Many overlook the role of alignment in manifestation. They focus on outcomes while neglecting congruence, but outcomes are downstream of alignment. When you align your habits with your goals, your mindset with your mission, your time with your values, response becomes inevitable. Alignment also requires patience. Sometimes the universe responds by preparing you rather than promoting you. Delays may be redirections. Challenges may be refinements. When aligned, you recognize these not as obstacles, but as adjustments that keep you on course. As alignment deepens, resistance decreases. You stop forcing situations and start attracting them. Effort remains, but struggle lessens. Progress feels natural because it is supported internally. This is the difference between pushing and flowing.